On a Tuesday night in our kitchen, Diane told me she revitalized me. It was as if she was returning an unwanted item. After 2 decades of mortgage payments, holiday dinners, and fixing the garage door in winter, she summed it up in a single sentence, still wearing her coat by the refrigerator. Unbeknownst to her, I had been preparing for weeks, and by the time she finished speaking, it was too late for her. I'm Nalan, aged 51, who has spent the last 22 years designing ventilation systems for commercial structures, including schools, hospitals, and warehouses. If a building's airflow is optimal, chances are someone like me made it happen. Although not glamorous, I excel at my work, and the company continually assigns larger projects to me. Diane and I tied the knot when I was 26, and she was 23. At that time, she worked as a receptionist in a dental office. Over the course of time, she transitioned into hospital administration, eventually securing a position as a coordinator for volunteer programs at Mercy General downtown. 3 evenings each week, she oversaw events and scheduled shifts. The hours were good, the pay was reasonable, and she enjoyed interacting with people. For a significant period, our relationship remained stable, albeit uneventful. We stopped surprising each other around our 15th year together. I would return from work sites, she would come home from the hospital, we would eat dinner, watch shows, and retire for the night. Weekends were spent on yard work or visits to her sister's house. This pattern seemed acceptable to both of us. What I failed to recognize was when the pattern altered. That aspect still puzzles me. I create systems for a profession, focusing on airflow, pressure, and balance. If a change by half a degree occurs, I am expected to detect it. However, in my own household, I missed the shift entirely until Route 9. 3 weeks prior to our kitchen discussion, I had concluded a project in Kearney, approximately a 2-hour drive south. The job was industrial ventilation for a meatpacking facility, where I worked uninterrupted for 3 consecutive days, staying at a motel that smelled of carpet cleaner and burnt coffee. I ended the work earlier on Thursday than anticipated, thus saving me an entire day. I phoned Diane during the drive home to inform her about my early return. She didn't answer, so I left a voicemail, assuming she was engrossed in a volunteer activity since Thursdays were typically busy for her. Route 9, heading north, was chosen because the interstate had traffic congestion due to construction. Upon stopping at a gas station near Milford to refuel, I went inside to buy water. It was there, through the window across the road, that I noticed a car parked outside Pellini's, a silver Subaru Outback with our auto shop sticker on the back glass. Diane was supposed to be at Mercy General Hospital, which is an hour and 40 minutes away in the opposite direction. Standing there with a water bottle in my hand, I stared at a car through a gas station window, doubtful that I was correct. Could it have been another silver Outback, but I recognized our distinctive sticker. After paying for the water, I walked to my truck, pulled into the lot opposite, and parked 3 rows behind the Subaru. I turned off the engine and waited. It took 40 minutes before the restaurant door opened. Diane emerged first, wearing different clothes than what she'd wear to a hospital visit. She had on a dark blouse and earrings I'd never seen before. Following her was a young man in his mid-20s with an athletic build and dark hair. He placed his hand on the small of her back as they crossed the parking lot, and she seemed to lean into it comfortably. This wasn't a colleague's or friend's casual stroll. They got into a black Audi, parked just 2 spots from Diane's Subaru. She sat in the passenger seat while he drove, traveling south on Route 9 towards a line of motels near the highway intersection. Her car remained parked in the lot like an overlooked piece of evidence. My wife, aged 48, married to me for 20 years, got into a vehicle with a boy who seemed younger than many of the workers at my job site. I swiftly captured 3 images, their cars side by side in the lot, and one showing him placing his hand on her lower back as they walked toward his car. The photos were time-stamped. Subsequently, I set down my phone, started the engine, and drove for 2 hours without radio, arriving home at 10:15. The house was empty, naturally. I stood in the hallway for approximately 10 seconds before heading to the kitchen, opening my laptop, and accessing the Mercy General Hospital's website. The public events section listed all upcoming events, including fundraisers, blood drives, and community gatherings with dates. I retraced January, February, March, April on my screen, searching for Thursday evening events. Nothing was found, not a single event since December. They'd transferred all Thursday programming to Saturdays in January, as clearly stated on the public calendar. This meant that every Thursday since then, Diane had been telling me she was at the hospital, but in reality, she wasn't. For months, I'd been confronted with a carefully orchestrated deception. After closing my laptop, I sat in silence for a while, contemplating the number of lies. The next day at work, I looked up the Mercy General staff directory online during lunch. I typed rehabilitation into the search bar and scrolled through the images. On the third row was Reed Dunham. He was a 25-year-old physical therapist in the rehab department, licensed the previous year. The boy from the parking lot now had a name. He was 25 years old. I wasn't even born when Diane and I got married. After work one day, I phoned a family lawyer named Bridges. A colleague had previously used him during their divorce, praising his intelligence and efficiency. Driving to his office after my shift, I detailed everything in half an hour. The car at Polini's, Reed Dunham, the altered Thursday schedule, photos on my phone. Bridges remained unfazed. He advised that the initial step was securing assets, our house, my pension, savings account, and he could prepare documents within 10 days. I requested a week less. As Bridges handled the paperwork, I scrutinized our bank statements online one night following Diane's bedtime, not for court purposes but to uncover overlooked transactions. The mystery was 3 withdrawals over 3 months, $800, $600, and another $1,200, all drawn from our shared savings. These amounts were inconspicuous enough that I hadn't noticed them. No entries on our combined calendar or household costs corresponded to these transactions. The total was $2,600. Disappeared somewhere untraceable, neither required nor noticed. The jarring element wasn't the money per se, but the routine behind it. Each withdrawal coincided with her Thursday workdays. She would withdraw cash on Wednesday and vanish the next day. A mechanical sequence. 20 years of shared construction, only for her to dismantle our efforts subtly, a few $100s at a time. That evening at dinner, Diane chattered about a Saturday volunteer event, an inconvenience with the catering company booking the venue twice. I sat opposite her, chewed my meal, nodded in response when necessary. But beneath the table, my hands were clenched, and my jaw stiffened whenever she flashed me a smile as if nothing was amiss. Midway through the meal, I stood up, informed her of project files to review, and left for the garage. Parked myself at my workbench, pulled out an already completed blueprint to keep something before me. Just 5 days remaining until Bridges called. On the third day, an unexpected action from me unfolded. It was a Saturday morning when Diane was absent, fulfilling her genuine volunteer commitment. Thus, the house was mine alone. I took my seat at the kitchen table with a piece of paper and an envelope. The missive was destined for Connie Dunham, Reed's spouse. They had tied the knot young. She was 24, working as a dental hygienist in another part of town. With minimal effort online, I uncovered their home address from the county property records, which are publicly accessible information in our state. It took only 4 minutes to unearth this data. The contents comprised 3 sentences, my name, an account of what I witnessed on Route 9, and the date, time, and location. There was also a concluding line. I believe she had the right to be informed, just as I would have wished to be kept in the loop. Sealed, stamped, and delivered personally to the post office, it was handed over to the clerk behind the counter so I could verify its dispatch. I won't feign ignorance about the impact this letter might have. I foresaw that it would destroy Reed's marriage, and to be frank, I didn't care in the least about that. However, that wasn't the primary motive behind my writing. The real reason was more straightforward. Connie, who was 24, was married to a deceiver, and she deserved to learn the truth immediately instead of enduring 5 more years of ignorance. A call can be denied, a text erased, but a letter on paper with a name and a date is tough to discard. 7 days later, Bridges phoned. All arrangements were in place. The house was secured, mortgage always under my ownership. Pension marked, savings account frozen according to the legal proceedings. A divorce petition was drafted and waiting. I collected the envelope from his office on my way home and stored it in the glove compartment of my truck. On Tuesday evening, Diane returned from work, not the weekend kind. She hung her coat, filled a glass with water, and stood by the refrigerator. Her posture and stance indicated this was a conversation she had been preparing for. "Nolan," she began, "there's something I need to discuss." I chose to stand rather than sit opposite her. "For some time now," she continued evenly as if reciting, "I feel the need for personal space. I believe it's necessary for me to live independently for a while and discover who I am beyond our relationship." She paused, anticipating my response, but when none came, she persisted. "There's someone," she admitted, maintaining eye contact, "at the hospital." The man invigorates her, making her feel as if she had been living lifelessly for 20 years, a backdrop to which she had grown accustomed. I retrieved an envelope from the drawer behind me, the one containing takeout menus and old batteries, and placed it on the counter between us. "I completed my tasks in Kearney 3 weeks ago," I announced. At Route 9 service station, your Subaru was parked at Polini's. You weren't inside. Your hand gripped the glass tightly as you watched me step out with a man in a navy blazer. I observed you climb into his car and depart towards the motels along the highway. I remained in my truck for 10 minutes, contemplating whether to trail you, but chose not to. Instead, I returned home and contacted a lawyer. I thumped the envelope on the table. 3 weeks overdue, Diane. She didn't instantly open the envelope, instead gazing at it as if it could explode in her hands. Upon picking it up, she withdrew the papers, began reading the first page near the refrigerator without moving from her spot, still holding her water glass. "You froze the account," she murmured. $2,600, I responded. "Every Wednesday before your Thursday shifts." I didn't require a detective, Diane. I needed a bank statement. That one hit harder than the rest. Her expression shifted, neither sorrow nor remorse, but the gradual understanding that her seemingly unnoticed actions were being monitored via a series of figures all along. "Nalan," she began, then paused, collected herself, restarted. "I was planning to inform you I wasn't merely vanishing. You've been absent every Thursday since January." She arranged the documents on the counter, moved to the living room, and settled at the edge of the couch. I remained in the kitchen, didn't approach her. After a prolonged period of quiet, she asked, "What should I do now?" "Do whatever you wish, Diane. That's essentially what you've been doing already, except not from this house and not with my funds." She departed that evening, collected one bag, contacted her sister, and left without uttering another syllable. After shutting the front door, I waited as her car engine receded, then strolled to the kitchen, poured a bourbon, and contacted Bridges to notify him of the service. In 3 days, an unfamiliar number called my phone. Despite my instincts, I answered. "Is this Nalan?" came a shaky voice. Connie Dunham identified herself. "I received your letter." For 2 days, I pondered it before addressing him. He confessed to everything he'd done, as described in the letter, for months. Initially, I intended to express regret that she had discovered the truth this way, but she interrupted me. "Let me share something with you," she said, her voice calm and deliberate, like she was reciting a pre-written speech. "I'm 3 months pregnant. We found out just before your letter arrived." 3 months pregnant, selecting nursery paint shades, then your letter arrived, shattering my world within moments of reading it. No response came from me then, none existed. "You acted as you believed was correct," she said. "Perhaps you were, but you never considered the impact on me. You focused solely on your desires, neglecting my needs." The line fell silent, her breath audible. "I'm sorry," I murmured sincerely. Not for the letter, but for the destruction of her life wrought by a trusted individual and culminating in a stranger with a pen, paper, and stamp. She ended the call without farewell. For a while after that, I remained seated at the kitchen table. The virtue of doing the right thing is that no accolades are bestowed upon you. Often one is left alone in a silent home, pondering if right was the term I should have chosen instead. The following morning, Diane phoned again, her voice altered taut. Razor-sharp, laden, Reed informed me his wife had been aware. He stated a letter had been sent to her anonymously, a moment of quietness. "You?" he queried. "Yes. You annihilated everything, Nalan. You didn't merely depart from me. You guaranteed there was no remnant for me to turn to. His wife is pregnant, it seems," he revealed. "I wasn't aware," I responded. She stands alone and Reed struggles to face himself, while you remain ensconced in that house, seeing yourself as the protagonist of your tale. A brief pause ensued before I spoke truthfully, though not as spotless as it had been a week prior. "You brought ruin, Diane, not me. I disclosed the truth to one person who merited hearing it. Her decision regarding its usage is her prerogative. His action towards her is his responsibility, and what you wrought upon us is yours." She terminated the call. Within 2 weeks, Reed tendered his resignation from Mercy General. The grapevine murmured that Connie's complaint to the administration rendered his continued tenure awkward enough that he decided not to linger for a push. Through a mutual friend, I learned he had returned to live with his parents in Indiana, and it's unclear if Connie accompanied him or left independently. Regardless, her life was no longer my concern. However, I can't deny that thoughts of her persist. At 24, pregnant, opening a letter from an unknown man, she deserved to know the truth. Righteousness doesn't heal the pain of discovery in such circumstances. Both facts coexist, and I've given up trying to choose between them. Diane signed the divorce papers after 3 weeks of her lawyer negotiating with Bridges. She demanded half the house equity, but bank transactions and parking lot photographs left her little bargaining power. Ultimately, she accepted the terms. The house remained mine, along with the $2,600 from the settlement, my pension intact. She relocated to an apartment on the other side of town, continuing her work at the hospital, but now in a different department. A mutual friend informed me that she had shortened her hair and started attending some form of support group. I didn't seek additional information as it was no longer my concern. On a Friday afternoon, my team leader phoned with updates. Our company had won a contract for an elementary school on the east side. It involved full HVAC design, making it the largest project within the district's budget that year. He asked if I wished to oversee it, and I agreed. The following Monday marked the commencement of my involvement in the school project. Accompanied by the architect, I explored the unoccupied structure, featuring bare concrete floors, exposed ceilings, and spaces yet to be designated names, merely numbered on a blueprint. She indicated the cafeteria area and expressed their desire for an air system that was inconspicuous. No visible ducts, minimal noise, no mechanical components visible. Simply clean air for 400 children who would never ponder its origin. In the center of this vacant room, I retrieved my notebook. Each time I commenced sketching as usual, lines first, followed by angles, and lastly the invisible pathways of air that we all inhale unseen. It's a type of work I can perform with my eyes shut, except this design demanded precision. On my departure, I contacted my brother Warren, with whom I hadn't spoken in months. No significant reasons for our silence, just the typical distancing brought on by pretending life is going smoothly. "Hey, I've got 2 passes to the Reds match this Saturday." "Interested?" he chuckled. "When did you suddenly become a baseball fan?" "Started this week." I left my notebook on the passenger seat and navigated the truck. The structure behind me was incomplete, no walls, no wiring, no airflow yet. Yet it would be filled with those elements. That much I could guarantee. The rest, I am learning. One cannot engineer everything.